All right. There it is. Right here. 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 57 seconds. 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 57 seconds. Right here. Read and weep. Now we're going to check our steps on Saturday to what we do throughout the week. That's 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 57 seconds, and 74th of a second. There's Kitty right there. All right. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. If you're with me, you're going to learn to be fit. You're going to learn to protect yourself. You're also going to learn to not let people run over you or bully you. You're going to learn to document. You're going to learn about Apple. You're going to learn about restaurants. You're going to learn about God. You're going to learn about how God works in your life. The reason you're going to learn about God is because there's people out there that are evil. There is a bad world out there. You're also going to learn about married life. Okay? I have 3 children. David, Elizabeth, and Gwendolyn. David is 9 years old right now. Elizabeth is 8 years old. That's my first daughter. And then I have Gwendolyn. I think she's going on, let's see, 19, 20, 22. She's going on 5 years. $177,840 miles, about 85 degrees on the Fahrenheit. So, pretty rough day. I did about 5.3 miles today on the hike. We're looking at May 25, 2023. And welcome to the Please Subscribe Show with your host, moi, Cole Spivey. I went to the Actor Studio Drama School, New School University back in 2001, 2002, and I'm a peer of Bradley Cooper that played American Sniper's Chris Kyle. And we're probably going to be planning a vlog to Chalk Mountain, the place in Texas, where a guy named Chad Littlefield and Chris Kyle, Chris Kyle, his American Sniper. Chad Littlefield and Chris, I haven't had anything to eat, no calories or anything today. Chad Littlefield and Chris Kyle were almost assassinated. They were murdered by a guy named Eddie Ray. I want to say it's Roth or Ralph or Roth or Roth. It's R-O-U-T-H. I want to say it's Roth, Eddie Ray Roth, but I haven't heard it spoken, so I don't know. You never really know until someone actually pronounces the name. It could be Ralph, but it's R-O-U-T-H. Chad Littlefield was in his 30s. Chris Kyle was about 40 or 40, or I don't have to find the date on his birthday. I think he was... he's either 72 or 74, 1974, 1972. I'll have to find out the year. But he did die on February 2nd, 2013. 90 days before I met the mother of my children, Angel. So he was killed 90 days before. It took 90 days for me to get ready from Maine to get all the way here to Texas to begin my family of 3 children. Chris Kyle was slaughtered on a shooting range. He was our best sniper, or very accurate sniper. He killed 300 enemies. No, I'm sorry. The official count from the Pentagon is 160 confirmed kills. Some say 300 kills, and some say 600. So they don't know exactly how many he killed. But they say about 160 were confirmed. Those were documented kills. And then he was killed himself at a shooting range in Chalk Mountain by either a SIG or it was a 45. I think they call it a 19. I think it's a 45. They used them in World War II. 1911, I think, is M1911 or something like that. It's a type of officer rifle. Well, no, I'm sorry, handgun. It's a lethal sidearm. He was killed with a lethal sidearm. And his friend Chad Littlefield was shot 7 times with a SIG.
That's what I call, it's a nickname, or it's a slang for a smaller type of handgun. The other one was I think it was a 45. It was an officer style handgun, is what they call it, a handgun, sorry. He wasn't killed with a rifle, he was killed with a handgun. Handguns are made to kill people. If you have a sidearm, it's made to shoot a man. And that's how Chris Kyle was killed. Chris Kyle was actually shot 6 times. He was shot 1 time in the artery, and he bled out. And pretty much that killed him. But then he was also shot with a bullet that wedged into his spine. I think through his neck. Chad Littlefield was shot several times, I think 5 rapid fire shots. And the 6th bullet went right to the crown of his head, or something similar to that. One of the bullets went into the crown of his head and killed him instantly. So it wasn't painful. Chad Littlefield was the United States Marine Corps. Eddie Ray Ralph, the killer, the murderer, who is serving time in prison for life. Be a great interview. He actually is United States Marine Corps. He suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, and a bunch of other mental illnesses. And Chris Kyle, believe it or not, suffered from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And he was trying to heal soldiers by taking them out to the shooting range. And then what happened was they took him out. They took Eddie Ray Ralph, or Eddie Ray Ruth, or however you say his name. They took him out to this Chalk Mountain shooting field. The drive there was a little bit quiet, and it made him feel uncomfortable. Chad Littlefield sent a text message to Chris Kyle. That was documented. It was a documented text message. And it said, this guy's straight up nuts, watch my 6. So they got out to the range, the shooting range. They walked down the field of the shooting range. And that's when Eddie Ray Ralph opened fire, killing both of them pretty much instantly almost. Then Eddie Ray Ralph, or Ruth, he took Chris Kyle's F-350 Ford Super Duty, and he drove it either to Midlothian to see his sister and to report the crime. So he told him that he had killed Chris Kyle and his friend, and that he was on like a Wounded Warriors Project kind of thing, you know, that he was being helped for PTSD. Then he drove over to his house in Lancaster, I believe, or in that area, to check on his dog. The cops found him. They tried to spike strip his car. It was unsuccessful. The chase continued until he crashed his vehicle, or Chris Kyle's vehicle, his F-350. He crashed his truck right into a police cruiser, and they took him in after that. They didn't give him institution time, even though he was crazy. They just put him in prison. He probably was a future cop. All right, so we're doing really good on calorie count. These are usually going to be like 1 plate. So I do a 1-trip salad bar, and it's going to read, if you really stack it up there, it'll read at about 1,030 or 1,032 calories. So it'll be a 1032. Okay. There's the Jason's Deli, and then doing really good on that. These will be the calories I have for the day. Now, if I stick to just this daily, we'll be 170 by the end of summer, if I can just stick to the 1 plate of Jason's Deli a day, and the jog as well. So we're gonna get a scale this June coming up here pretty soon, and we're gonna weigh in our first number to start reporting that with our steps and our hiking throughout the week. We're hoping to get about 7 days a week on the hiking, so doing about 5.2 miles total. About 5.2 miles on the hiking. First, let's get some nutrients, and we'll head out to drop the food at your doorstep. Look at these pretty flowers. All right, so this Jason's Deli salad bar is about 1030. It's 1,030 calories. I've got 6 eggs I'm gonna de-yolk. I'm gonna teach you guys how to do the de-yolking. I only use about 1 or 2 of these. All right, thank you all for the phone. First, we're gonna get into what's known as de-yolking. All right, so to de-yolk, you need 2 bowls. I only have 1, but you need something to cut the plate with right here. I'll get into that in just a minute. All right, so we're gonna get into de-yolking. All right, so here's the de-yolking. Okay, now the Generation X people won't bother them. The people before or after, I'm sorry, after Generation X, say Generation Y, or you say generation that's going on right now, it won't bother them. But the Boomer generation, this will bother them. I want you to watch how fast I put the egg in my mouth. That bothers the Boomer generation. We're gonna de-yolk this right here, very carefully. Want to make sure that that's all there. The other generation don't care, they find it funny, but the Boomers don't. Watch how fast. As fast as a bullet, okay? I'll show you this right here. Right there. Just right there, make sure that it's de-yolked. Getting all this, you can see it right here. I was trespassed at a Jason's Deli in Louisville for doing this. Right there, watch. She went up to my table and she goes, I know what you're doing. Now watch. And that's egg right here. Now watch it right here. And then we have this right here. And this makes the people that don't like the Christians very angry. This is a form of bread. And no copyright. Very good. We'll see y'all soon. Just to continue on, I know I do a lot of stuff about film and cinema. I'm not the biggest expert, but I've been to NYU. I studied 3-point lighting in an auditing class. I don't even know the name of the teacher. He was a Polish filmmaker. One of our best filmmakers of all time, other than Alfred Hitchcock, is Martin Scorsese. He's the finest filmmaker, and we're lucky and fortunate that he's American. He also is right there on the level of Fellini. I'm sure he probably knows more about Fellini than probably anybody, other than maybe David Lynch. The only other filmmaker that is on his level of mastery is, of course, David Lynch. But Scorsese is probably one of their finest storytellers and a great guy. Now, he is doing a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon. I just looked it up. It's about the Osage. They're a Native American. Man, I just ate a salad. Anyway, I'm gonna go see it. It's Apple TV. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro plays a character called Hell. I think it's a corruption in law enforcement, and I think De Niro is playing this kind of corrupt character. I think that Leo might be playing a character that's there to help some of the families, the fallen families of the Osage, which is in the Oklahoma area. So it's historical. It's based on a book called Killers of the Flower Moon. But we're gonna look at it. I'm gonna look at everything. I read only the sample. I can only afford samples. So I read the sample, I think 5 or 6 times. And it's very instructional. The samples are very, well, the book, I haven't got through all the book. I plan to read it one day. But it's very informational. It's not real fancy book that's like Chaucer or, or Henry James or something like that. It's not based in, and the book is not based like in style, but rather it's informational. So it'll tell you the story in an informational way. It's not a cop drama, and it's not a pure Western. And then we're talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. And I'm gonna have to check on that title because I get a little. But I have Native American ancestry. So I am a Native American, and I side with the Native Americans. I got 3 choices. I've got Irish, I got English, and I got Apache. You can tell by my hand. Look at the difference right here. I choose Apache. Now the Apaches are safeguarded. They're part of a tribe of the Navajo. They're a sect of the Navajo. I don't know a lot about the Osage, or the Osage, or the Sage. The Osage are in Oklahoma. I don't know anything about them. I haven't even heard of them until this book has come out. And I have not heard of them until this movie has been announced. You don't always hear of things until either it makes it into the movies, or it makes it on the news, or your friend knows about it, or you just happen to come across it in the library. I don't read a whole lot of books, but I try to. And when it comes to a movie, like American Sniper, for example, with Clint Eastwood, I read that book as much as I could before I went to go see the movie. But I'm only going to be able to afford the sample. So we got to get some gas. So before I go and see the movie, I'll reread the sample again, so I'm familiar with the characters, and it looks like it's going to be a good one. So I saw the cans. Some call it cons. Some say cans. I call it cons. I don't know what Scorsese calls it. He may call it cans. But they did an interview with Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, and a lady that's representing one of the Native American characters in the story that we're going to learn about. We're going to do a movie review on it, just like we did with Irishman. And Irishman was up for Best Picture, which I thought Joe Pesci should have won. So we're going to keep an eye on the movie. We were going to get Apple TV, but we can't. We can't get Apple TV. It's too expensive. So I'm going to purchase the movie, if I can, on Google Movies. It'll be on it. It'll be there. All the movies are, which I can purchase movies right off of YouTube. Now, with a right soundbar and the right television, a correct television, a television that's flat screen and big, and with a really good soundbar, I might get a good entertainment value out of it. There is a chance that I may go see it in the movies, but I'll probably sit in the back. All right? You have a good night, or whatever, and I'm going to be picking up some Mama's Pizza. A lot of traffic. We're almost at my Mama's Pizza off of Camp Bowie. Someone just called me from Nebraska. Yeah, I said, hello, and nobody. It's telemarketers. So Scorsese, Martin Scorsese, they call him Marty. He's really into the Searchers. John Wayne. But the guy that made it was David Lynch played him. David Lynch just played him in The Fabelmans. John Ford. Okay. So John Ford was kind of this mastery filmmaker that did the Cinescope. He did the big westerns that were on the big screen. You could see the big land and the big field, and the horizon was either really high up or the horizon was really low. And he knew photography on how to capture and pique the interest of the audience. And then, there was one thing that he did where he showed all these horses, these cattles going into, I guess, cows. This cattle drive going into a river that was real. These real cattle going into a river. They may have been horses. But he took a lot of risk as a filmmaker, and people were excited about him, and he was like a pretty big deal, and especially to people that like Westerns. And Scorsese loves John Ford, and if you go and see The Fabelmans, it's Steven Spielberg's, about Steven Spielberg's life. It's loosely based on his life. It's a fictional kind of historical thing with Steven Spielberg a little bit. So there's true moments that Steven Spielberg put into The Fabelmans. David Lynch plays a character named John Ford, which is a filmmaker. Eventually he had this problem with his eye, and he wore a patch over his eye. And he did this thing with his tongue. And he smoked cigars. And he was rough. He'd be like, I get over there, and I stand over that. You know, he was like a cowboy and a filmmaker. But he made some of the greatest Westerns, and one of them is known as The Searchers. So if you know anything about Martin Scorsese, he's probably going to mention The Searchers at least once, because Martin Scorsese was very a sick child, and he had asthma, and he couldn't get out and play and run and do all the fun things that kids could do, but he could go to a television and sit down and watch and then draw. He would draw out these storyboards when he was a kid, and then his dad would take him to the movies. He lived in Little Italy. His dad would take him to the movies, and he learned about John Ford, and that's probably who he wanted to be. So this is going to be a very important film, Killers of the Flower Moon, and I hope I'm saying that right. But it's going to be an important film because he's going to be reflecting on some of the stuff that he learned from John Ford. But he's also going to be probably throwing in a little bit of Alfred Hitchcock like he always does, and we're going to also get a lot of his style. I take a lot from Scorsese because I watch his movies, and I always ask myself, well, why did he do this? So then I do it, and then I learn. You know, one thing, he shows the table. He shows everything on the table. There's a reason for that. He was also trained in seminary, so he almost became a priest. He also did a film that my people protested called The Last Temptation of Christ, that my grandma forbidded, and even the book. I had the book. I read the book several times. She forbid him and did not like him, and they protested against him. My people did. Excuse me, the Protestants. And the Catholics didn't. They liked The Last Temptation of Christ, and they used it in Sunday school to teach. So they would show the movie and use it in Sunday school to talk about the humanity of Christ. I don't have a problem. I didn't protest against The Last Temptation. I would even watch it with some of my friends in high school, and we would talk about why it was protested against. And it shows Jesus in a fictional way, but it does come across some biblical aspects, and it does present Jesus Christ, but in a way that's fictional. So the Protestants protested against it and saw it as a very dangerous film. And they probably still do today. I don't know exactly how the Catholic do, but I don't think the Catholic kicked him out like they did with Fellini. Fellini was excommunicated. Scorsese, I don't think, was. The reason why Fellini was excommunicated is because he made comments about Mary, and he put it in the movie. They didn't put up with anything when it comes to Mary. Didn't see that thing with Fellini and Mary, but Fellini was excommunicated. So anyway, it's a tough thing. I don't recommend, if you're a very biblical person, I don't recommend taking Last Temptation of Christ serious. I recommend you take it with a grain of salt. But I also recommend that there's a humanity aspect of Willem Dafoe's performance. That not everything's perfect. Not everyone's going to spoon feed you the Bible. But you're going to learn, if you do see it, you're going to learn what a man sacrificed in order to be what he was, which was the Messiah. He was on the cross. And then there's some aspects to it that are fictional. They talk about Judas, and they come back and they kind of make comments about the Bible. But it's not the Bible. Really nothing is. Even if you go see Passion of Christ by Mel Gibson, it's not the Bible. If you go and see any Jesus movie, it's not the Bible. You got to pick up the Bible, the Word of God, and you got to read it yourself. So he never claimed that was the Bible. He did not say, this movie is the Bible. He said the movie was the Last Temptation of Christ, or Last Temptation of Christ. He did not say, this is the New Testament, this is the Bible. He said, this is based on a fictional book. So that's something that he will have to go to God on. And when he was making it, he did fear, because lightning strikes did happen around the cross where Willem Dafoe was being set up. And he was afraid of his own life because he knew God was mad at him. So he went through that, him and God. God can look past those kinds of things. God doesn't look at Hollywood as an idol. God does not look at Hollywood as anything. It's the same thing as what's in your television. It's the same thing that you sit there and watch 6 hours a day. So he doesn't see it as anything like, oh, okay, well, you know, they're great people. They're definitely going to go to heaven. They have to fight with the same battles of God and the devil and the demons and the angels like everybody else does all around the world. I've been avoiding Hollywood because of some of those spiritual things in my life, because of the fact that there's false idols that we don't worship. But I'm still going to see Killers of the Flower Moon because it's instructional, and I'm still going to see it because there were wrong things done to people of my ancestry, because Apaches were used. They were used in battle, and they were taken advantage of. The Osage Native American people were taken advantage of. And whether the people went in there with a Bible to take advantage of them, which they probably did, it goes to show to be on safeguard and watch out. Because there's people out there that will take advantage of you and that will bully you. And they'll bully your nation and they'll bully who you are. So that's probably what he's talking about a little bit. And then he's also talking about a Western. He's talking about, what was the other thing? I don't know, not a cop drama, but a drama about the corruption of authority figures. And we're gonna pick up some Mama's Pizza. Yeah, I'm sure he did do that. Killers of the Flower Moon is a book written by David Grann. He's a Jewish writer. He was basically became over time a #1 New York Times bestseller. He wrote about September 1st of 2011. I'm sorry. I can't get it right anymore, but let me explain something. I was there 9/11. I just don't like to say 9/11, okay, of 2001. I don't like to say the word 9/11, but he wrote about September 11th of 2001 because it's clear. That's why I say it. It happened on September 11th of 2001. I was in the city. I was down the block. I smelled the smoke from the World Trade Centers on fire. I was there. I got physical proof. I talked to a lady from Talk Magazine. She told me to get all the way back to 12th Street by NYU. I was going to the new school, University, Actor Studio Drama School. I was in the city during September 11th of 2001. David Grann wrote about that experience. He also wrote many books and became a very intense journalist, or he was an intense journalist. Now he writes books. So he's a New York Times bestseller. David Grann wrote Children. It's just going to fight with me. There's a devil, there's a demon, and it's going to fight with me. But he did write Killers of the Flower Moon. Okay? But we're going to get it right for you, for the English majors that are carefully listening to every word I say. David Grann is a Jewish writer. He wrote in New York City at times. He wrote about September 11th of 2001, which is known as 9/11 2001, which I was there studying as an actor for the Actor Studio. Don't forget it. Now, he also wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which was a New York Times bestseller, and now it's been turned into a movie, which Martin Scorsese is behind. Leonardo DiCaprio is behind. He plays, I believe, a Texas Ranger. The FBI character, the development of the FBI, was happening in the 1920s, and they're involved. J. Edgar Hoover was involved in the killings of these Osage Native American indigenous people that are very poor. They own land in Oklahoma called a reservation. There was oil on that land that people wanted. There was a character named, I'm just going to guess William Hale, but it's Hale regardless of the first name. Hale, played by Robert De Niro, who is going to be a corrupt character. Leonardo DiCaprio probably is going to play a good character, I think. There's a guy named Jason Plemons, who is also in The Irishman. He's been in a lot of movies. Okay? He's been in a lot of things. He's probably going to play another law authority figure. This is about corruption in law. So law is corrupt. If you're in seminary right now, the law is corrupt. You can only be in Christ to be saved. You will never cleanse yourself with law. You will only be lost. So this is about how the law inflicted indigenous people, or we'll say poor people for the English majors, because we have to speak for the English majors because of wording. It's important. But they're poor, poverty-stricken people, Native Americans, that became very wealthy very quick. So the law came in and began to murder them to take away their wealth. This is about people killing other people for money. It's about corruption. It's a Western crime drama. It's going to be important because no one, especially authority figures, have the right to murder anyone for any reason at all. Okay? If they murder someone, then there's a reason behind it. Now, if it's over oil, which in this case it was, then we're going to form militias and we're going to overthrow the government and we're going to cut your head off right in public to prove to a point that people don't have the right to mess with other people's families. It's going to be messy. January 6th happened. This was a few years, not very long ago, where they kicked in the Capitol doors. And that was a sign saying, don't mess with family, or we're going to cut your head off in public and show it to everybody. And that's going to be bad. That's going to be serious. It's happened before. You've seen Bastard Sword. People can get their head cut off in public, and it can be publicized. And when people see that, they're going to change. Now, when they see Osage County, they didn't exactly cut those people's heads off, but they put bullets in their heads. And they left them bloated and disgusting and died. Okay, that's not English major, but bloated and disgusting and dead. They left them, that's English major, so they left them dead in the desert of Oklahoma, or in the dry areas of Oklahoma, in the middle of everything. They executed these people that were family so that their family could have more and they could go home and read the Bible and impress their wives. Okay? So they murdered people to go home to read the Bible to them to impress their wives. These are the law figures that are going to be stopped in our country today. There's going to be a night called Dog Night Out. When that night happens, people are going to lose their lives. They're going to be ripped out of their cars and murdered on the streets. And these people are going to be lawful people, and they're going to be authority figures, because the only thing that makes a cop is a citizen on patrol. It's the only thing that makes them. Did you know you're a cop? Did you know you have your own type of badge? And did you know, because of the Constitution, you have the right to form your own militia and protect your family? You have the right to protect your family. But if you're on the offense, you'll be stopped. But if you protect your family and you're on the defense, people will get behind you, that militia will grow, and the whole country will be overthrown in one night. Okay? Go see Killers of the Flower Moon. All right, there's Mama's Pizza. We're going to be there in 1.3 miles, 6 minutes. We'll arrive at 6:16 in the p.m., as in post-meridium. All right, we're going to drop off your pizza. Or all the way from Florida. Right, people do have the right to protect themselves. That's what we learn about America. That's why George Washington became George Washington and overthrown the government and formed the Declaration of Independence, so that we could protect our families. I'm going to teach you something about picking up the camera in a minute. I just learned it right there. You learn by doing. You cannot learn any other way. You learn, it's impossible to learn how to plow by reading books. So I'm going to teach you something about the camera when you do this right here. God bless, God bless. We're going to learn right here. So, you can put the camera down like that. Okay? And when you pick it up in the right area, not like that. Pick it up like that. So you set the camera down. Don't pick the camera up like this. Pick the camera up like that. That'll get them put in prison and get them the death penalty right there. Okay? So I'm gonna show you. Pick the camera up like that. That'll give them the death penalty. If you pick it up like this, we're gonna try it again. Okay? Because God's fighting me. We're gonna try it again. When you put the camera down like this, pick the camera up like that. That'll give them the death penalty. If you pick up the camera like this, then they're free. You got it? They'll be free if you pick up the camera like that. You still got the sound on your side, but there's a button. I'm gonna show it to you where it is in the mirror. Because they designed this kind of stuff for a certain reason. You got a 50-50 to pick it up right. Flip it around, now it's right. Now they got the death penalty. I'm gonna show you something. There's a button right down here that'll turn the camera off. If you pick it up like this. You ever watch the Carpetbagger? Where he shows the hand grabbing? Okay, so when you grab it on the right side, not on the side of the camera. Then they will get the death penalty. But you have to grab it the right way. So let's practice. The camera's over here, and then we're gonna pick it up like that, okay? Then they'll get the death penalty. You wanna get a visual, you get the badge number, you get the rank, you get the association. The title is their name. I call it a title, but it's their name. It spells what they are, which is brat. They're raised by brats. They're raised by Army brats. They're raised by all different brats. Marine brats, Air Force brats, Navy brats. They're military. They're brats, B-R-A-T. Badge number, rank, association, and title first, and get it recorded for your lawyers or for the people. Because George Floyd got it for the people. He died for the people. The cop is in prison for the people, because it's the people that gets them. And the people can see as long as you don't cover it up. Got it? That's how you do it. B-R-A-T. Badge, rank, association, and title. Until we stop hearing the sirens, the war will continue. Amen. Hallelujah. What goes on with the movie, there is some reality to it. You know, De Niro always plays, and De Niro means money. Okay? That's what the word De Niro means. Robert De Niro, the last name De Niro, it means money. So he plays a lot of corrupt characters. He's done it in Cape Fear. He's played plenty of corrupt characters that have to do with law and the corruption of law. And Scorsese has used him. He even played corrupt characters in Goodfellas and The Irishman. Okay, so the corruption is there, and there's some reality to it. Okay? Meaning, De Niro's not Jesus Christ. Robert De Niro is not a perfect person. Leonardo DiCaprio is not a perfect person. He's not an angel. They're not angels, okay? Even Martin Scorsese has flaws. They're not perfect people, okay? So what they're doing, and I understand what they're doing, is a little different than what you think that they're doing. We're going to Campese's. It's an Italian restaurant in 1946 that are run by the mafia during the time of JFK in the 1960s. Right around the time JFK got a little pop in his head. They got 2 books in there that said the mafia killed JFK, called The Kingfish. It's written by 2 different writers, regardless of the English majors.